The day Elias Crow rode into the trading settlement with his two daughters seated behind him on the creaking wagon, he believed he was making a simple promise meant only to quiet children who had known far too much silence for their young years. The sun hung low over the Arizona desert, painting the land in copper and gold, and the air shimmered with heat and dust and the smell of leather and sweat. Elias was a widower of 3 years, a man hardened by frontier life, broad-shouldered, weathered, and careful with words, especially with the girls who depended on him for everything. Clara and June had lost their mother to a winter fever that swept through their homestead like a ghost, leaving behind empty rooms and unspoken grief. Since then, Elias had tried to be both father and mother, working the land by day and telling stories by firelight at night, but no amount of strength could replace the warmth the girls missed. That morning, as the wagon wheels rolled toward the settlement where traders, ranchers, and displaced natives gathered to barter what little they had left, the girls' voices were unusually quiet. To lift their spirits, Elias said casually, not thinking of the weight his words would carry. Pick anything you want today. Anything at all. He meant candy sticks, maybe ribbons, perhaps a carved doll from one of the traders. He did not imagine those words would change all their lives. The settlement buzzed with uneasy life. Men argued over prices, horses stamped their hooves, and Apache women sat in the shade of broken wagons, eyes lowered, shawls pulled tight, treated like remnants of a world people wanted erased. Elias had traded here before, always keeping his distance, not out of hatred but out of caution taught by years of fear-driven stories. Clara and June climbed down from the wagon, their boots crunching on dry earth, eyes wide as they took in the chaos. Elias handed them each a copper coin, smiling. Go on, he said. Find something that makes you smile. The girls nodded and wandered, first laughing at trinkets, then slowing, their laughter fading into thoughtful silence. Elias bartered for grain, unaware that his daughters had stopped near the far edge of the settlement where no one else seemed eager to linger. There, sitting alone beside a leaning post, was an Apache woman. She was young, though hardship had carved lines of exhaustion into her face. Her dark hair hung loose and tangled, her dress worn thin, hands rough and scarred from labor no one thanked her for. She did not beg or speak. She simply sat staring at the ground as if trying to disappear. Most people passed without looking, and those who did offered only scorn or suspicion. Clara stopped first. She tugged June's sleeve, whispering something Elias could not hear. The girls stood there for a long moment, studying the woman not with fear, but with curiosity and something deeper, recognition. June knelt and picked up a small stone, turning it in her fingers, then looked at the woman's face. She looked sadder than Papa did when Mama died, June whispered. Clara nodded, her lip trembling. Maybe no one ever picked her, she said softly. Elias noticed. The girls had not returned and followed their gaze across the settlement. When he saw where they stood, his heart tightened. He strode toward them, already forming words to pull them away gently. But before he could speak, Clara turned, eyes bright and serious, and said words that stopped him cold. Papa, she said, pointing to the Apache woman. We know what we want. Elias frowned, glancing at the woman, then back at his daughters. Girls, he said carefully, I meant toys. Or sweets. June shook her head fiercely. No, she said. We want her. Elias laughed once, uneasy. That's not how it works, he said. But Clara stepped closer to him, voice steady despite her small frame. You said pick anything. We pick her. We want that Apache woman as our mom. The world seemed to go quiet. Even the noise of the settlement faded as Elias stared at his daughters, searching their faces for mischief or confusion, but finding only certainty. Around them, a few traders paused, whispering. The Apache woman lifted her head slowly, eyes meeting Elias's for the first time. There was no hope there, only resignation, as if she had heard cruel jokes before and expected this to be another. Elias felt the weight of the moment press against his chest. He thought of his late wife, of the nights the girls cried themselves to sleep, of the emptiness that haunted their home. He also thought of the danger, the judgment, the way the world treated people like the woman before him. Girls, he said softly, you don't understand. June grabbed his hand. We do, she said. She needs a family, and we need a mom. The trader overseeing that section scoffed. You don't want her, he muttered. She's trouble, no papers, no value. The word value struck Elias like a slap. He looked again at the woman, at the way she held herself as if braced for impact, and something shifted inside him. His promise echoed in his mind. Pick anything you want. He had said it lightly, but his daughters had taken it as truth. Elias cleared his throat. What's your name? He asked the woman. She hesitated, then answered quietly. Naya. Her voice was steady but guarded. Elias nodded. If I took you away from here, he said slowly, would you come? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Naya's eyes widened, disbelief flickering across her face. Why, she asked. Elias looked at his daughters, then back at her. Because, he said, they asked me to. Silence stretched thick and heavy. Naya looked down, then back at the girls, who smiled at her as if she were already theirs. Tears welled in her eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. I have nothing, she said. Nothing to give. Elias shook his head. You don't need anything, he replied. Just come. The traitor laughed bitterly. You'll regret it, he warned. Elias ignored him. He lifted Naya's small bundle of belongings onto the wagon and helped her climb up. Clara and June squeezed beside her, pressing close, chattering softly, telling her their names, their home, their chickens, their favorite stories. Naya sat stiff at first, overwhelmed, then slowly relaxed as the warmth of the girls' trust wrapped around her like a blanket. As the wagon rolled away from the settlement, whispers followed them like shadows. Elias felt fear gnaw at him, but beneath it was something stronger. Purpose. He glanced back at Naya, who stared at the horizon, tears finally slipping free. He did not know if this choice would bring peace or hardship, but he knew one thing. The girls' laughter had already changed. It rang clearer, brighter, as if a missing piece had begun to fall into place. And as the sun dipped below the desert hills, Elias realized that a promise spoken lightly had become a covenant that would test them all. That night, as the wagon creaked along the lonely trail, Elias spoke to the listener beyond the story, his voice steady and sincere, reminding them that sometimes the smallest choices carry the greatest consequences, and that if this story stirred something in their hearts, if they believed in compassion stronger than fear, then they should stay with this journey. Subscribe, and walk with this family as their story continued, because what awaited them next would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, belonging, and courage on the unforgiving frontier.